What you need in the building here. Hope you guys having a good day. Sean Zittel said something that shows me that his argument has holes. He's talking about he predicts that Terrence Crawford will stop Errol Spence late in his fight with Errol Spence. Okay. What do you have for that? His basis is Crawford versus Jose Benavidez. Let's look at that. Sean Zittel says that Jose Benavidez wasn't the shell of a fighter that the Jose Benavidez we saw face Danny Garcia, but he actually was a great fighter. And he said he was sharp, long, and, Benavidez at certain points in his fight with Terrence Crawford, the first 3 rounds or something like that, was doing great. Then he began to tire. And Crawford took advantage of him tiring. Now, one, if we know anything about Errol Spence, his strength is his conditioning. Right? Errol Spence, condition is ridiculous, right? If anything, Errol gets stronger as the fight goes along. But that's not the problem with Sean Zittel's argument. Here's the problem with his argument. One, when Terrence Crawford faced Jose Benavidez, he was a 6-time 3-divisional champion. Okay? Key is that still facing Errol Spence. But the difference is Jose Benavidez was not a world champion. Had never made it to the championship level. Didn't know what it was. In fact, Jose Benavidez wasn't even a top 10 welterweight. Go ahead. Look it up. Was Jose Benavidez more in his prime? Absolutely. Was he working his way up to becoming a world champion? Absolutely. Were the Benavidez brothers a force to reckon with in sparring and known in Las Vegas as that? Absolutely. Nothing there Sean Zittel is saying is wrong. Did Jose Benavidez have his left foot banded up? Go ahead and watch my profile picture. Absolutely. Now, where is Sean Zittel overcompensating? One, he's overcompensating in terms of the caliber of fighter that Terrence Crawford faced for his level and experience in boxing. And two, he's also overcompensating in terms of the physical conditioning and shape of the fighter going into that fight. That's why I said Sean Zittel is overcompensating when he's making his argument. Jose Benavidez was nowhere near on the level of a Keith Thurman, Dennis Ugas, Danny Garcia, and to this day, he's not on that level, right? So Danny Garcia beat him at 154, right? And what Danny Garcia was able to do that Terrence Crawford was not able to do was close the distance and land body shots on Jose Benavidez. And regardless of whether Jose Benavidez was in his prime or not, against Danny Garcia was able to expose those holes because Danny Garcia has defense. Which leads me to the other point. Jose Benavidez, for all his flash and style and power that he had, his main defense in his fight against Terrence Crawford was his jab, establishing distance. That was his main defense. I'm not saying that's his only defense. I said that was his major defense, which Danny Garcia exposed by using his defense to close the distance on him and banging his body and landing one or two left hooks and right hooks on him. Past his guard, which had holes. He was able to hook around his guard. So Jose Benavidez was not an elite fighter like a Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Dennis Ugas, Kell Brook, Errol Spence at that time when he faced Terrence Crawford, who had a lot more experience than he did. Okay? Now, what Terrence Crawford was able to do against Jose Benavidez, he cannot afford to try to do, and he will not be able to do and maintain against Errol Spence. Errol Spence, like I explained to you guys, is like Mike McCallum. He's a guy who will use his jab to get to the inside of you off of an angle, and he will start working you. This is why Derek James said Terrence Crawford will not be able to just box and dance around Errol Spence. And how do we know this? This is the notorious Errol Spence that gave Floyd Mayweather a black eye, the man who can dance around the ring. But Errol will cut down the ring on you, force you to move in a direction you don't want to go, and box you in. That's what he does. The reason Sean Porter was able to make the fight with Errol is because he allowed Errol to box him in. Then he would flip the tables on him by dipping under Errol's shots and spin out to try and turn the tables on Errol. But because Errol can pivot so well, he was able to pivot with Sean Porter, match his intensity, and still walk his ass down. But Errol will make you fight. This is a guarantee. I guarantee you this. Errol will make Terrence Crawford fight in this fight. Okay, this is not going to be Terrence Crawford versus Jose Benavidez. It's not going to happen. And Terrence is going to have to hit Errol with something that gets his attention. He's going to have to get Errol's attention. Okay? So, because I don't think Terrence can knock out Errol. I mean, anybody can get knocked out with one good, well-placed shot. But I think Errol has the sharpness and the defense such that he's not catching him like he did Jose Benavidez. He's not catching him like he did David Avanesian. He's not catching him like he did Kell Brook. That ain't happening. A focused, on-point Errol Spence, them kind of shots ain't happening. Okay? Because his defense is so much on point that it's not going to happen. It happened with Sean Porter because Sean Porter was slowing down. He was slowing down. And Terrence is able to clinch him and control his work on the inside. That ain't going to happen with Errol Spence. Y'all don't understand. Guys have tried that with Errol Spence. It don't work. Errol's going to make Terrence work. I can guarantee you that. Terrence is going to have to pull all the tricks out of his tool bag to stop Errol. And even if Errol is throwing a lot of shots, Terrence needs to use his defense to block a lot of shots. And I hope Terrence is working really triply hard on his conditioning, because Errol's conditioning is going to be crazy. And Errol is going to be spiteful. When he starts to offload, it's going to be nasty. Y'all was saying your Dennis Ugas was standing directly in front of Errol. Y'all wasn't paying attention, because he wasn't standing directly in front of Manny Pacquiao. If y'all was paying attention, y'all know your Dennis Ugas also cuts angles. Also circles a certain way. All right? And Errol don't stand in front of his opponents. He never does. Coach Derek Smith, Coach, not Derek Smith, what's his name? Shit. I forgot his name now. His coach, anyway, seriously will seriously scold Errol if he stands directly in front of a fighter. You don't do that. Okay, Errol does not stand directly in front of any opponent. And his pivot work is what allows him not to do that. And I remember Floyd Mayweather saying, Errol learned to pivot. And that's I'm going to say it again, one more time. Errol learned the pivot. So Sean Zittel thinking, you're wishing on a prayer, bro, that Terrence Crawford would knock out Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford didn't knock out Victor Postol. Terrence Crawford didn't knock out what's the kid name? He didn't knock out what's the guy name? I forgot. He dropped Victor Postol a number of times. He even dropped Amir Khan a number of times. He didn't knock out Amir Khan. Yeah, I thought he was going to knock out. And Amir Khan's a chinny guy. Okay? But Amir Khan, has the will to win and all of that too. But I'm not saying that he wouldn't have stopped Amir Khan. I'm just saying he didn't get Amir Khan out of there. I'm not saying that Terrence Crawford can't punch. I'm not saying that Terrence Crawford doesn't punch very well. I'm saying Terrence Crawford, he might be able to punch, but like Sugar Ray Leonard, he ain't knocking out Marvin Hagler. Sugar Ray Leonard would not in a million years was going to knock out Marvin Hagler. I'm going to say this right now. Terrence Crawford, not in a million years, is going to knock out Errol Spence. It's the same sort of thing you're looking at. He going to have to box him. He going to have to work him. One of the things about Floyd Mayweather, he wasn't knocking out guys, but he had the skills. He had that special ability to go the distance with dudes who was trying to take his head off. And he knew different strategies and different tricks up his sleeve to kind of keep them off balance, keep them at bay. And this is what this dude is going to have to do with Errol Spence to win this fight. He going to have to keep him off balance. He going to have to keep him at bay. And he going to have to make adjustments on the fly. All right? He got the instincts and stuff to make that happen. That's why I think this is a hell of a fight. But both of them going to get banged up. But I'm telling you, man, Errol Spence is more like a Marvin Hagler, and and Terrence Crawford is more like Sugar Ray. And y'all gonna see that in this fight. Because what happens when you hit Errol Spence with your money punch and he's smiling coming at you still? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You hit him with your money punch and he didn't do him nothing. What you gonna do then? That's Marvin Hagler. That's Mike McCallum. That's Errol Spence. That's the cloth he come from. And I'm going to say this. You don't have to knock out your opponent to beat him. You just have to outmaneuver him. And that, I can guarantee you, Terrence Crawford has. But will he have to fight Errol Spence? He'll have to fight him. Errol will make him fight him. Because Errol knows how to deal with boxers. He knows how to deal with boxers. He knows how to deal with switch hitters. Y'all getting it tied up. And you never heard of the name Leonard Bundu? What'd he do to that dude? He slept him. Nobody ever slept Leonard. He slept him. He's a switch hitter. This ain't nothing new to Errol Spence. Y'all need to do your homework. Now, I'm not saying Errol's going to win this fight. I never said that. But I'm just saying, Sean Zittel, you need to do your homework, bro. You're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. All right? Dude, I think Terrence can outmaneuver, outbox Errol Spence. Can Can he do it? I've seen Sean Porter do it. So I think that Terrence can do it. He's going to have to clinch at certain points, and in the clinch, you need to try and wear down Errol. Now, if Errol stays too composed, you see, it's all about composure in this fight. It's going to be an action-packed fight, though. No doubt about it. Errol's going to make Terrence fight. But Terrence loves to fight. So, and he does do some very interesting things when he's fighting. So, once again, and don't get it twisted, Terrence is very, very strong. So, this is not one of those easy fights. Because you think because Errol make Terrence fight, that means that automatically Errol going to win this? No. We've seen Terrence beat people at their own game. Okay? He going to have to fight. Definitely. In spots particularly. And in other spots, if he can control the action, he going to win this fight. Okay? That's just what it is. Letting y'all know. All right? That's what it is. So can Terrence win this fight? Absolutely. Don't get it twisted. Just because I'm talking about Errol. But I'm just letting y'all know what Errol bring to the table. I'm not saying that Terrence can't handle it and that he can't win, but it ain't gonna be easy. I'm telling you right now. I'm just telling you. Errol's a workman, right? Mike McCallum was a workman, and tricky. Marvin Hagler was a workman and tricky, but Sugar Ray Leonard beat Marvin Hagler. Could Sugar Ray Leonard have beaten Mike McCallum? It would have been a tough order, but yes, it was possible because Sugar Ray Leonard was that kind of dude. It's the same thing with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford brings all kinds of things to the table, right? Errol brings things to the table that you've seen and some of the stuff to the table you don't even know about. And so these two guys, if they bring out the best in each other, which we'll have to in this fight, is definitely going to make this fight special. And you're going to appreciate these guys and boxing after this fight. I really hope that. I don't want to see no one-sided fight. This is not one of those. I'm telling you right now, this is not a one-sided fight. Ain't no one person coming. I don't care what Errol say and his team. Oh, this is going to be a one-sided beatdown. Oh, hell no. I can guarantee you that. It's not going to be a one-sided beatdown. All right. So, like I said before, we are blessed to have a fight like this in all time, in all generation, because this fight, I'm telling you, man, this ain't one you want to pick because this is hard. Yeah, if y'all riding Team Crawford, I salute y'all. I really do. The timing of this fight is the best time ever for this fight to happen. The two guys got so much experience behind them. Because, they had to overcome so much adversity as well, that this one of them fights you really want to pay to see. Okay. But Sean Zittel, he's wrong, man. Jose Benavidez is nowhere in the class. He wasn't even in the class of all these top 10 welterweights. He wasn't a top 10 welterweight. He was a top ranked fighter. There was a lot of buzz around him. He didn't have a lot of experience. His defense wasn't all that. Terrence took his time, draw him into deep waters and drown him. When he got tired, he closed the distance and he did his thing. Got him out of there in the 12th round, which, a hell of a fight in terms of excitement, drama, crescendo to the fight, how it ended on an exclamation point. Absolutely perfect. But let's not get it twisted. He won a top 10 welterweight. You could see Terrence Crawford doing that to Keith Thurman. Can you see Terrence Crawford doing that to Danny Garcia? Absolutely not. All right? Danny Garcia actually has a win over Terrence Crawford in the amateurs as well. Okay? I can't even see Terrence Crawford doing that to Dennis Ugas. Y'all lost y'all damn mind. All right? I don't see him doing that to Dennis Ugas. He gonna do it to David Avanesian. Yeah, he do that to maybe a Sergey Lipinets. Yeah, sure. He can do it to them. Ugas? Come on. Thurman? You actually see him stopping Thurman? Nobody's ever stopped Thurman, by the way. Nobody's ever stopped Danny Garcia. If there's one thing you can say about Danny Garcia, that motherfucker got a chin. He's stopping Danny Garcia, and Danny Garcia hit like a truck. Okay? You telling me Terrence Crawford would stop Danny Garcia? Get the fuck out of here, man. Y'all need to really wake up and think about what you say. All right? So I don't know about y'all. I don't know what y'all thinking. Yes, don't get me wrong. Terrence Crawford looked good against the competition he faced. He looked like a monster against the competition he faced. I'm not even saying he don't have that gangster mentality. He ain't a dog and all of that. But let's get it in perspective now. This boy ain't putting Errol Spence to sleep with one punch. That is not happening. His best competition in his entire career was Sean Porter, who was ranked, I think he was a top 4, top 5, top 4 welterweight at the time. Something like that. That's his best competition of his career. Okay? And I'm not saying Sean Porter's a slouch. And Sean Porter's never been stopped. But I'm just saying, that's his best competition. And this is Sean Porter as a former WBC champion. He won champion. He was going after Crawford's title. Crawford versus Thurman. Why did that never happen? I would have loved to see that. We know Thurman don't like body shots. Why? You didn't have that fight. I wanted to see if he could put Thurman down or something. Right? You know what I mean? Thurman also messed it up because I think he was going to face Thurman after the Pacquiao or something like that. And Thurman hasn't been active for a while as well. Thurman just been sitting on that money and eating. All that money he made in pay-per-view against Pacquiao and them. So he ain't really been interested in going back into the ring like that. But I'm just saying, right? Your best win of your career is Sean Porter. Spence got a litany of names. A litany of names. Besides Sean Porter. That are better than Sean Porter. So, I mean, just based off of that, we can't assess Terrence Crawford and say, oh, he gonna mow down Errol Spence because, you know, he mowed down Sean Porter. What are you talking about? You know, is it a possibility they can knock out Errol Spence? Anybody can get knocked out. Anybody. Is it likely? No. Just being real with you. He might look like he was a monster mowing down these different fighters, but no. Errol's not going to go in there and do something stupid to get knocked out. So we know that already. He's coming in there, bringing the heat behind an educated jab, keeping his defense tight. So we and he's very aware. And Sean Porter's a quick dude, and Sean Porter can do some things that Terrence can't do. Like, you know, he has quick feet, you know, so he can shuffle in, close the distance very quickly. He can pivot around angles. You know, Sean Porter pivots around angles very quickly. Not the most accurate at body punching, but, you know, once he gets within a certain distance, he gonna do his thing. He couldn't do it against Terrence because Terrence locked him up. And Terrence is strong. Right? So once he closed the distance a certain distance, Terrence would lock him up, you know. And Sean was still doing his thing, but he wasn't doing it like how he did it against Errol. Against Errol, you could tell he was much more motivated. He even said he was pumping weights or something. So he was bench pressing again, and he was very motivated. There was no corner he didn't cut. He didn't cut no corners. In this, he didn't swim after he finished running. He was telling his father, I need to conserve my energy. And he was just full of shit. He was full of shit with his dad. It's giving his dad problems. And his dad, after the fight, said, you know, Sean didn't do what he was supposed to do. And so he lost. Now, that's only because when you're going for 3 belts, okay, you're going to be more motivated than if you're just going after a belt and to say you face this particular fighter. And as you older, you got more wear and tear on you and everything. I think he said he had a hip problem or whatever. You don't go as hard because you feel like you faced everybody and this is the last guy to go. And I just think Sean mentally, as much as he was saying he was dialed in and all of that, I think Sean mentally, was checking out of the game. He probably knew he was going to retire. This was the last one. I just had to get to this last one because Sean faced everybody. Sean can tell you about everybody. Okay. Now some people like Sean Porter's father keep on saying that Errol Spence would beat Terrence Crawford. He keeps on saying that. Sean's father's very adamant about that. I'm not adamant about that because I know that Terrence has abilities to not necessarily create distance, but he has abilities to change up his rhythm a little bit, change up his timing a little bit, and sort of coax you into getting hit with a shot. And I could see Errol realizing his mistake, making an adjustment, and he can keep Errol a bit off balance. I think he's got that ability to keep Errol off balance a bit. And I think that's how he'd win the fight. You just have to keep him because of Terrence Crawford's movement. I think that I could see Terrence Crawford beating Errol Spence, landing some really good shots and everything. Don't get me wrong. He gonna land some good shots. He got to land some good shots, obviously, to win the fight. But I could see him keeping Errol off balance at certain points in the fight. I'm not saying he's gonna be on top of Errol all the time. I could see Errol having his time in the fight and Terrence having to make certain adjustments in different rounds. And so there's an ebb and flow to the fight. But ultimately, in the end, I can see Terrence pulling it out because he lands the flashier punches or he gets the flashier stuff especially in the championship rounds, and I could see him pulling away like that. So it's not like I said before, it's not like this fight is one in which Errol can win dominantly or Crawford can win dominant. The intention of Errol and the intention of Crawford is to crush each other. And the intention is to go in there and dominate. But in this clash, there are just certain tools where you shouldn't do certain things. Like you have to know what it is you're doing. So I don't expect them to end in there cautiously, but I do expect them to have a game plan, which they're going to be working out where they could like, for instance, Terrence Crawford is going to have to keep Errol Spence off balance as much as he can. And that's somewhat of a difficult challenge sometimes. So that's why I expect Errol to have the better of him in certain rounds. And then in certain rounds, I expect him to have the better of Errol, because he's going to have to keep Errol off balance to beat him. I don't think he's going to stop Errol. I don't think he can outpower Errol, if that's a word. Errol's too well conditioned for that. So I do think, though, he can get him off balance. I think he has that rhythm, that awkward rhythm to throw Errol. Now, if Errol gets onto his rhythm, it's game over. They just have to go toe to toe. They're going to have to. It's a firefight from there on into the end. But if Terrence do what Terrence does normally do, his rhythm really throws off people. Yes, people like Mean Machine is able to catch him with certain shots and stuff like that. And some people argue put him down, but that was because he went in there to kind of bully Mean Machine. He decided, I'm just going to come straight at you and bully you, right? He's not going to do that with Errol, right? He's going to fight more like how he did with Jose Benavidez. He's going to look and see what's up. He going to bait. He going to, probe. He going to, throw a strong jab, see how that react. He going to be testing out some shit, okay? He not just going to walk in with Errol. He going to test it, see what Errol power feel like and all of that. So then he going to test out. Now, while he trying to test out, Errol might just go straight into it. He may just start off right off the cuff with a jab and start working off his jab from the get-go, right? So that's why you can't afford to give away any of the early rounds. That's what Terrence can't afford to give away early rounds. Because if he's looking for like a knockout or stoppage to bail him out, really put the power behind it and try and stop Errol, he going to find himself in a real problematic situation, because Errol's not that one of them guys. But having said that, it is wise to test and see what it is you up against, what you're dealing with. Errol's a guy, he gets to work quite quickly. He gets to work quite early, right? They're gonna be like the battle of the jabs early on. We don't know what stance Crawford gonna be in. So, but that's one of the things you're gonna have battle of the jabs, or maybe not. Maybe we dealing with battle of the lead hands. Who knows? He might start southpaw. You never know what Terrence Crawford might begin with and what he's planning on doing, because there's many variables to it. But I do think they're gonna try and feel each other out. I think Errol will take much shorter time to feel out Crawford. The only way Errol's not going to impose himself and try to railroad Crawford from the get-go is if Crawford gives him something, hits him with something that gets his attention, and then he says, okay, I'm going to respect you. Otherwise, he's just going to come in there and try and power drive him, right? That's the first thing Errol's going to do. He's going to really try and push the issue from the get-go. I think Errol, because he thinks he's bigger, stronger, and all of that, he's going to try and push the issue, and Crawford's going to have to check him. Right, because if you look at Errol is a guy like this. If I can just run through and steamroll you, I will do it. Right, so you could expect Errol to get in there and start doing what he do from the get-go. Right, I think with Crawford, because Crawford knows Errol's gonna bring that to the table. Crawford going to have to work around that. So I think that's how that's going to spark. I'll be surprised if Errol starts feeling out Crawford early. But then again, that could happen. It could end up that Crawford's the one who's the aggressor and Errol's the one on the back foot boxing and baiting and all that stuff. So you never know who's going to start this thing off, right? This thing could start off many different ways. But to me, I think that Errol's going to start it off and go work behind his stick from the get-go and try and see, okay, make me respect you. Errol might start doing that and pressure him from the get-go, from the jump. And it'll be up to Crawford to make adjustments and see how predictable Errol really is. And then from there, he could size of the situation. And, with Crawford, he's going to have to pivot quite a lot because Errol's a guy that can pivot very well. So if Crawford can pivot quite well, or if he can try and circle out a little bit, keep his rhythm, try and throw some feints and stuff, try and throw Errol off so that he can have escape routes, kind of box him a little bit early and then settle down and start picking his spots. That might be good, as well as he might say, fuck it, and throw caution to the wind and start banging. Who knows? But I think more being a boxer in this case and adopting the boxer's mentality and staying behind your defense, I think it will serve Crawford better, especially early on, until he can find out the pattern, the rhythm that Errol comes with. Because Errol brings the heat, but he brings it in a certain rhythm. He gets into a certain rhythm. And then you start offsetting that rhythm, catch him in between the shots, that kind of thing. I think that's where Crawford could end up stealing the fight, winning the fight, whatever, stealing rounds, whatever, because then he can, okay, so this is what's happening, this is what's happening. All right. Because he can't not maintain the activity that Errol has. Errol, way more active. So he needs to sort of contain it somewhat, and then he needs to steal the round by doing his flurries or his stuff at the end of the round, or maybe at points in the round. That's what Crawford need to do. And he needs to, distance control, check a guy, body check a guy, or frame people, whatever, and use forearms, clinch, lock up where there's certain places, try and control the fight somewhat. And I don't know if he could do all of that, but I think that's the thing, to control the guy, just like how he controlled Sean Porter. He kind of was in control of the fight because when Sean Porter come a certain distance, he wrap him up, stop him, reset. And while Sean Porter's resetting, he's punching away. So something like that he'll need to do against Errol Spence. Errol's a bigger, stronger fighter. Errol also does some wrestling. I don't know if he's as good a wrestler as Crawford, so he may be able to neutralize some of the things that Crawford does on the inside. Hopefully, Errol also learned techniques to break a clinch. Because if you've been working on breaking a clinch, guys like Marcos Maidana, Crawford ain't succeeding at clinching with him. Marcos Maidana was a dude. Alexander Povetkin and Marcos Maidana, they knew how to break clinches and make you pay for trying to clinch. Marcos Maidana versus Adrian Broner, Marcos Maidana versus Floyd Mayweather, the first one. So if Errol Spence and Derek James are working on breaking clinches, we could have a long night. We could have a long murderous night. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's one of those things that you have to look out for. When a boxer is clinching. In fact, Sean Porter versus Adrian Broner was a good fight because Adrian Broner was trying to clinch to contain Sean Porter, you know. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. But yeah, this fight, you know, Sean Zittel using Jose Benavidez. Jose Benavidez is a totally different fighter to Errol Spence to start with. You know, Benavidez was a rangy fighter. He fought mostly on the outside. Once you got inside his arms, it was a wrap. Whereas Errol Spence is a guy who could fight from range, but he mostly likes to do his work on the inside. But he can fight from range. All right. So there's a lot going on there that you have to think about. You know, it's not the same. And you know, it's just interesting. You know, when they start firefighting, we'll see what's up. But I do believe that I don't see nobody knocking out nobody in this fight. It's going to be very thrilling. It's going to be a fight of attrition. When them fellas finish fighting, they're going to both be sore. But I do believe that this is one of those fights where the fans are not going to be disappointed. At the end of this, both guys are going to be seen as tremendous fighters at the end of this fight. Whether we get a knockout or not, you know, I don't think we will get one, but I think them guys too sharp and too defensively responsible, you know, because the money shots, it's very rare that them kind of top tier fighters get hit with money shots like that, you know. So, and people talking about Errol Spence's accident and all that's irrelevant. Think about the fights we just saw. We saw Christina Leonard-Tardoux versus Alicia Baumgartner, right? And we saw Leonard-Tardoux take some hellacious power shots to the liver, and she kept coming. We looked at Deshaun Cruz fighting Savannah Marshall, and Marshall could punch. And she was punching Cruz with the kitchen sink, and Cruz would just put her head down, you know, rip some headshots and back Savannah Marshall into the corner. I'm telling you, when you have a certain mentality, it really don't matter what the other guy do. You know, we saw actually Yordenis Ugas still fighting Errol Spence and protesting to the referee. He got one eye closed, he got a broken rib, and this ninja still fighting Errol Spence like if, you know, it took the doctor to stop that fight. Remember that? Even though Errol Spence broke his eye, this ninja was still fighting him. And that's the kind of mentality some people have, you know? So I'm telling you, both those guys have that mentality. That's why I don't believe, barring maybe severing their senses and they just knock out, or barring they kill each other, you gotta have to kill them to stop them. And I just don't see that happening. So, quite frankly, I think their defense is good enough that neither of them are going to get stopped. And I know Errol wants to get the stoppage on Terrence, but that ain't going to happen. And I know Terrence will love to murk Errol Spence, but I just don't see that happening. And what I see happening is we got this tremendous ebb and flow, tremendously competitive fight like a Hagler-Leonard, which comes down to the wire, and the judge is going to decide based on who wanted more. But it's going to be a battle of attrition, no doubt about it. And so I think this is one of those great fights you guys are gonna be talking about for a while. I remember Errol Spence versus Sean Porter was a great fight as well. And again, it went down to the wire. And I think Errol Spence is always involved in these kinds of fights because of his style of fighting. He's mixing the boxing IQ, the boxing skill, the boxing technique and all these little things, these finer points, to be able to put pressure on a fighter and not really take that much punishment because his defense is so much on point. And yes, he could box off the back foot and he could do all those things too, if necessary. But for the most part, he's applying an intelligent pressure, as they call it. He's better than Triple G in terms of applying his pressure. He doesn't get hit as much as most people who actively applying pressure to their opponents because he's so defensively responsible, both in establishing distance, range, and also in terms of occupying his opponent, keeping the hands home so he can do what he has to do. With Terrence is also a very smart fighter. He's more of a guy who likes to counterpunch you. So he's more of a counterpuncher. He catches you with shots in trades as well. He wants you to kind of commit to something, and then he'll come back with something else. He's very observant, so he will study your movements, your behavior, and he has what I consider a very irregular rhythm to his movements. It's kind of awkward, funny, and his limbs move independent to each other. So it's kind of cool to see his hands move at a different speed to his feet and all of that stuff. So that's what Terrence Crawford brings to the table. And they both, and of course, Spence with his balance and his movement, it's kind of hard to get him knocked out because he's so always in balance. Even when Dennis Ugas knocked his mouthpiece out of his mouth and he was focused on his mouthpiece, and Ugas caught him with a really terrific shot, right, that knocked him into the ropes, and he was laughing. Errol wasn't even focused on Ugas. He lost focus for a minute, which he can't do against Terrence Crawford, and he was studying his mouthpiece in his mouth, right? If Ugas had knocked out his teeth, and he was thinking about being embarrassed. So this guy, he wasn't concussed or nothing. It was a moment of vulnerability, and Ugas didn't spring on it. But I think Errol will just still manage to get past that because we've seen him get hurt by even bigger punches than Ugas in Kell Brook and in who was the other person? I can't remember. But he got hurt early in his career. He got hurt by the African kid, the southpaw. So he'd been hurt before, and he still made it through those situations. So I think that and I don't think Crawford should bank on if Errol can make weight or all of that. I don't think that's going to weight drain and all that stuff. I don't think none of that's going to mean anything because, again, both those guys, their mentality and their mindset is such that, we've seen it now in a number of fights where guys, their mentality is, oh, I'm winning. I'm going to win this. So there's no bit of budge or breaking them. And Errol's saying he's going to try and break down Terrence Crawford. If you couldn't even break down Sean Porter, how are you going to break down Terrence Crawford like that? Terrence Crawford, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. This is for him to become undisputed. He's seriously motivated about this. This is the fight he wanted, right? He's seriously motivated for this. So he's not going to let that go. Okay? He's not going to let that go. And Errol, he want to be undisputed as well. He's not going to let that go. So I don't see any kind of give in those guys. They may be taking an ass whooping. They may be taking punishment like crazy from each other. And they're not going to budge because they're looking at the finish line and they're looking there and they're saying, I want this. I want this. I want this. And so because of that, I don't think none of them going to budge. I think mentally, I don't think Errol can break Terrence Crawford. And I don't think Terrence can break Errol. I don't think so. I think they come from the same cloth, and so they're going to beat on each other for sure. It's going to be a hell of a fight. Some of us are going to watch in amazement that they're taking these kinds of punches from each other. But ultimately, in the end, I think they're going to make it to the finish line, both of them. They're going to beat up each other, though, real bad. I think it's going to be a very memorable fight. A high-skilled, high-paced fight in which the momentum keeps on changing. I think that's the kind of fight you're going to look at. Guys making adjustments, the other guy going to make adjustments, and so on and so on. They're both highly intelligent fighters. I think one is just more of a workman than the other. So the other has innovation. The other is creative, more creative than the other guy who's the workman. And the question is, they're going to clash. They're going to bang. The question is, who's going to come out on top? And so most people favor Crawford because of his creativity, but then the consistency has been Errol Spence. Which one are you going to pick? So those are the kinds of things you have to think about. And not to say that Terrence isn't consistent in his training and all of that. He's very consistent in his training and stuff. But when you look at how he throws his shots and stuff, with his rubbery effect, he's not extremely consistent and even accurate sometimes in how he throws his shots. You know, he kind of loosens up and becomes rubbery. Errol will give you the same shot in the same place consistently. It's very consistent. So that's the difference between them. I think one's more schooled and technically he tries to get everything right. And the other one, even though he's well schooled and can do things technically correct, sometimes he kind of wings it out on the fly and he just lets kind of the street side and his instinctive side of him go. So he becomes more creative and, you know, can solve problems more creatively. So I think that's what makes them both different. But they both are fantastic at what they do. And so the question will be ultimately in the end, and both of them are very smart boxers. I think the question will ultimately be in the end, as everybody has been saying, who wants it more? You know, who wants it more? So that's what it's going to come down to. So we'll see.